This is Jarrell with Quantum Light Consciousness. Today is the February to March World News Update. So many things have happened in the past month and a half. The news was really reeling in. There's a lot of world events happening, and it's been a while since I uploaded my last video. Sometime late January, I uploaded. In these videos, I really like to focus on discernment and looking at things with your own eyes and actually understanding and developing your own intuition and your own perspective of things and of how world events are taking place and from what reality. Is the world getting better? Is the world getting, is it plateauing? Or what's actually happening here? What's going on? Where are we going? That's the biggest thing. Where is the world going? Is ascension taking place? Are light workers here? Is the world getting better? Are things going to eventually evolve? And is the world going to be a free and safe place for us to live, for people to prosper, for children to grow, and for humanity to unify and live in peace and love? Is that going to happen? So that's what we want to look out for when we're looking at these world events. Stay in a place of alignment and discernment and looking at how things are getting better. Because if you look at how things are getting worse, that's, your life's going to get worse. Or you're going to look at things and you're going to be at a negative place and you can only see the bad in things. Okay. So I just wanted to say that, So I just wanted to say that as an initial disclaimer, because it's very important for us to see things for how they are, actually. And a lot of things happen the way they happen because they happen, and there's nothing much else we can do about it besides sit, be here and watch. Yet the biggest thing is actually processing it and understanding, there is a bigger picture at play. There's a bigger development here. There's multiple storylines from multiple levels. There's multiple dynamics here in play. So keep that in mind. All right. So usually when I start off these videos, I start talking about what's Trump doing? What has he done? The things that happened taking place in the White House. So and I'm always a person who supports Trump. Yet we're starting this off a little bit different here. Because I want to be real with you guys. I want to really, give you the raw perspective of an objective reality, just seeing things happen and how they happen and what's actually happening. All right. So beginning last month, February, we've seen Trump give over $1 billion to Israel. Now, this has been what seems to be a huge blind spot for President Trump is Israel. He can't see what Israel is and how demented their leader is and how murderous and genocidal he is towards the Palestinians and how much he just wants to ethnically cleanse that entire area of Gaza. This is it's a huge blind spot with him. And also with Elon Musk. First, I was wondering, is it a esoteric thing to where Israel has something that the world needs? They're in touch with some type of high developed ETs or somebody, or they have extraterrestrial technology, or they have something with the secrets of the birth of Jesus or something. It's no, none of that. It's just the guy. So it's like a Christian blind spot with Trump. He can't see how negative this guy is because the way his mind works is like, oh, if I like you, I like you. If I like you, you're a good person to me. I'm going to do business with you. So it's like Trump is Christian. Israel is the birthplace of Jesus. Israel is like, the place where it's like, oh, well, if you don't like us, then you're not actually Christian, and then you have the Zionism that comes in where it's like even more extreme. So it's like a Christian Zionist blind spot. It doesn't make any sense why he is friends with Israel besides having, I don't know, Christian Zionist blind spots. Yet he's the best president we've ever had. Still, there's no denying that. There's no denying it, no matter what way you look at it. Unless he joins in on bombing more of the Palestinians, because the plan is to relocate the Palestinians somewhere else, because it's obvious Israel just doesn't want them there. Israel doesn't want them there, and Palestine refuses to negotiate still, or show up to negotiations still, and something has to be done. So, when you have bad blood like that, you have to stop it, because there's no logic there. There's no logic to why Israel wants Palestine people just eradicated. There's no logic. So just to stop it, you have to do something like rash. You have to do something like move the entire population somewhere else. And it's pretty sad, because Palestine, they love their country. They love their land, and they've been there for generations and generations and generations. And the fast just broke for Ramadan, and they were like fasting in the heat of rebel, and just pure just destruction, and it's like a demolition site. So where they were living and eating and feasting and celebrating this beautiful holiday, and it's just like they really love their home, yet they're actually going to have to move. And it's wild how people are blaming the entire war resolution on Trump, when the sick Satanist pedophile warmonger Joe Biden was the guy who started it, and then continued to fund it and fund other wars. It's just insane. It's just insane how people continue to blame Trump for resolving the conflicts. I don't get it. You want to just, pick your battles and pick the small negative thing that happened after, this didn't have to happen at all. It didn't. Not if Trump was in office, it wouldn't have happened. All right. So that's how I feel about it. Take the good with the bad. There's a lot of good that came from it. No more people are going to die. That's the biggest good. We're talking about the guy who eradicated ISIS, who defeated Al-Qaeda, who stopped all the wars, literally all the wars that we were been in, that we've been in for the past 10 years, starting 2017, took all. He ended all of them. All right. If you weren't there, go back and look what he did. All right. So he actually came into office and he ended the war. And now, he did, do this ridiculous thing where he's Netanyahu's buddy, and he's giving Israel bombs. Yet he's stopping the conflict. Still, he's stopping the conflict. So you can't ignore that. So another thing that happened was the airstrike on Chernobyl, the nuclear area that sustained a terrible disaster, I think back in the 1950s or 1960s, over in Russia. It was clearly a false flag. It was clearly done by the Ukrainians. It was serving to be some type of trick or false narrative to get the war to continue, which failed miserably. It failed miserably because it was obvious what was happening. It was obvious that, Russia wouldn't go and attack a nuclear place. It's just not smart. It's not smart on anybody's best interest. If they want a functioning world to not be wiped out in destruction and have nuclear anything come into play in war. So it's obvious and blatant disrespectful. It was obvious and blatant desperate play on the old controllers who used to control the world with their nuclear tactics and agendas. So what happened after that was peace talks were taking place for Russia and Ukraine. And what happened was Ukraine was then disinvited from the peace talks because, who wants to talk peace with a psychopath that has no respect or no control, or no acknowledgement of anybody, of peace happening anywhere. They just want to just fucking wildly just keep fighting nonstop. It's not something to do if you want actual peace in the world. So they were disinvited, right? So after a couple weeks after that, Trump, being the compassionate person he actually is, if you know President Trump, he's actually a very balanced, more or less balanced person. He has his blind spots, but he's a balanced and compassionate person despite everything that's happened to him and all the things that he's been through. So he actually invited Ukraine to the White House, which was a move that I wouldn't do, not at all. The guy's a nutcase, and he's like a deep state, just pawn, just a mindless pawn, just a mindless body, just walking around doing anything. So he invited this guy to the White House. He shows up at the White House not dressed at all. He's like in civilian clothes. He shows up and he gets into the White House, and then he starts just literally just disrespecting, talking wildly, raising his voice to the point to where President Trump and JD Vance have to actually just literally give him the hand, just literally tell him to stop. Just stop. Just stop talking, dude. Like, why would you come here and embarrass yourself on national television in front of your entire country, in front of the entire world who's watching, who most already know that it's your fault that this war is even going on and taking place. In addition to that, how much you've taken advantage of, pillaged, and stolen from your own country to keep this war going. You have military recruiters going up to people, trying to pull them into recruitment centers and push them out into the front line so they can get killed. This isn't 4 years ago when your people were too naive to understand that this war was started off of just blatant greed and foolishness. And so you had your citizens volunteer because people are good people. They want to protect their home. And you took advantage of that. And you're now literally overplaying your hand. You're overplaying grossly and wildly. And it has to stop because the world is sick of you. They're sick of your fake agenda and your fake actions and your fake leadership, and they want the war to end. That's it. So he got kicked out the White House. Zelensky got kicked out the White House, which is awesome. Which was amazing to see, because everybody finally knows that Ukraine was never the good guy in this fight ever, not even close. With all these agendas, oh, stand for Ukraine. Yeah, stand for the people, because the people don't deserve to be in a war. But Ukraine's not in it. Ukraine is actually guilty. The government of Ukraine is actually one of the most corrupt governments in the entire world. All right, so he got ushered out the White House, and he's like, "Oh well, I'm not apologizing." So he refused to apologize for a couple of days, and now he's coming back again, saying, "Okay, well now we'll talk about it. I'm willing to talk." Well, of course you're willing to talk because you have nothing left. All right, you have nothing left. You deserve nothing. You deserve to be in a prison cell. You don't deserve anything. So, that happened. And when that happened, I was just like, wow, it's finally people are seeing what's happening with Ukraine. So here's more on Ukraine and what Ukraine did and what Ukraine has actually been doing for the past 4.5 years while they perpetuate this war that's been started by the Biden administration for no apparent reason at all, except to launder money. They've been shuttering and raiding churches. They've been arresting mass Easter goers. They've been imprisoning journalists. They've been having Americans die in custody. They've been canceling elections. Zelensky, he actually installed himself as the leader by martial law past the term limit. They've been conscripting women, and they've been making a hit list of anti-war Americans. And the stuff is just like, oh yeah, support Ukraine. But they have laws against the woke ideology that has been going around. Like, there's no LGBTQ marriage that's legal in Ukraine. Then there's like laws against abortion in Ukraine, like stuff like that. It's just like, are you guys really for Ukraine, or are you just for whatever the media is spouting out for you to be against these past 4.5 years, while there was a fake administration with Biden in the White House, just doing whatever he wants for just cause of insanity and chaos. Hopefully we'll see a lot less Ukraine flags going around. I understand why people want to support Ukraine, yet like, it's not to stand against Russia. It shouldn't be because of that. What it actually is for, which the people don't know what it's for actually, they don't want war, but Russia isn't the bad guy either. So hey, I give these people the benefit of the doubt, yet it's just like, grow up and look at what's actually happening in the world, and look at things not from an identity perspective and who you wish people would be and who you think and who you want the bad guy to be. Look at actually what's actually taking place, please. So another thing that happened was Maine was recently threatened by President Trump because the Maine governor refuses to take men out of women's sports. Now, this is another thing with like the mental virus going around and people thinking they're somebody else when, they're in another body or whatever they think that they're calling it. Yet what happens is, you can decide you're whoever you want. You can actually be whoever you want. You can walk around as whoever you want. You can think you are whoever you want. You can do whatever you want. Just do whatever you want. However, when other people's safety comes into play, there has to be actual boundaries and lines that are drawn, definitive lines that are drawn to protect other people. It's very simple. So when you have, this movement or this ideology that's going around saying, oh, we can do whatever we want. We can be this. We can love whatever we want. We can love whoever we want. We can do whatever we want. These people want infiltration. They want infiltration into women's bathrooms. They want infiltration into women's environments. They want infiltration into women's sports. And when they get in there, it's just like all it takes is a second and boom, they're attacking women in their own environments. And what has been happening in sports, women have been actually getting like concussions. They've been getting injuries. They've been getting bones broken. They've been getting all types of negative injuries, negative things happening to them. They've been getting hurt from these people who think that there's something else. And it's just not. Like, you can choose to do what you want, but like, it's actually a physics thing, it's actually a science thing, it's actually a soul thing. It's when you're born, you have one identity, and you can choose to be that, or you can choose to do something else. However, whatever you want to do, you can't allow it to come into conflict with somebody else's safety. It's just not plausible, and it's not going to happen. So what President Trump did was he said, the governor of Maine, this is actually all caught on a video, and it's actually hilarious. So what he did was he spoke directly to the governor of Maine that, when all 50 governors had to meet with President Trump, and he was talking to him, he said, Governor of Maine, you have to take men out of women's sports. And if you don't do it, your entire state is not going to get federal funding anymore. So you should really do that. The words he used was, you better do it. If you know what's good for you, you better do it. So Maine, the governor of Maine has still not taken men out of women's sports. So now the federal funding is currently cut for Maine. So who knows what's going to happen with Maine now if the governor refuses to actually play ball and do things with federal law, because their response to President Trump was, we're following federal law. Well, what federal law? What federal law are you talking about? Because the federal law just told you to take men out of women's sports. Like, some governors have just been on their own delusional tear with this new ideology that has been circulating throughout the collective and just taking over their minds. So they think they can just do whatever they want in their own world. It's not going to happen. People have to be safe. Women have to be safe in their own environments. You can't just allow people who think they're somebody else to just come in and just do whatever they want and just, just do whatever. It's not safe for anybody. So the next big thing that happened in February was Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, to where you have Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are, going and auditing all these big government agencies. And what they're doing is they're finding a lot of waste and a lot of corruption, a lot of uncounted funds that are totally being distributed and embezzled into people's bank accounts who have no business receiving them. Like government officials, secret organizations, and indiscreet individuals who have, no dealings with those funds being in their pockets. Now we're talking about American taxpayer funds. We're not talking about it's military spending or it's government spending. It's actual taxpayer dollars that you pay the IRS when the IRS audits you for $600 that is unaccounted for. They then take that $600 and then throw it into somebody's bank account that who are over 300 years old. Now, the longest recorded person in history who has been alive has been, 125 years old. So 300 years old, that's a lot of years for somebody to still be alive to be receiving funds. And if you pay Social Security every year on your taxes, that's actually like a big thing. That's a big part of your income going somewhere. So to see that actually get audited and get stopped is huge. Another thing was Doge uncovered a lot of spending just everywhere, anywhere, especially towards the mind virus agendas. So after Doge found all that government waste and corruption and spending to where it was just going out the door to who knows where, to what type of negative agenda bank accounts for any type of crooked organizations or terrorist organizations or human trafficking organizations or dark military spending organizations. Who knows where it was going and what they were doing with it, because those names in the Social Security database were untraceable. And they had the director of the Social Security Administration resign. And it's just like, it's obvious, what Trump said. It's obvious, if you find so much corruption in a organization like that, and then the next week you show up as resigned, it's obvious you didn't resign. You're fired. You're gone. Nobody's going to put up with that. If you see all this untraceable, untrackable waste that's being stolen from the American public, completely just blatant theft in front of everybody's face. All right. So at the end of that, what they find is that out of all the organizations, the IRS also, they went and audited all this stuff. They're cutting 45,000 IRS agents because, the IRS is an honorable the IRS is an honorable organization. When they show up, they do their job. They're honest, and they make sure that the American taxpayer is paying fairly, right? So it's just no, in all seriousness, everybody needs to make a living. Yet, if you're a part of the IRS and you don't know what the IRS is and you're fighting for your job, you have a lot of, I don't know what to say. You need to get into something else. Get into something else to where you can actually make an honest living. Get into something to where you can actually do more for the American public, if that's what your actual goal is. If you're working for the government, find another job somewhere. So out of all this waste, what Doge found is about $1.2 trillion that's just free now for to use for anything. So I did the math, and that's about like $13,000 or $15,000 per person out of the entire United States population, just if you pay taxes. So they're going to start releasing checks up to like, starting with like a $5,000 check, which they're talking about doing, which is huge. It's actually huge. I was actually talking to my cousin about this, about how like everything's changing in the government, everything's changing in the world, things are happening at a very quick pace, and they're going to find funds and they're actually going to release them. And it could be like $6,000. That's what I said. When I said that, she was just like processing it, and like literally 3-4 weeks later, Doge says $5,000 checks are going out to the American public for taxpayers who have been frauded by these government agencies. So after we find out these tax funds are going out, what do you see? You see the Democrats complaining. What are they doing? Complaining. Why would they complain about fraud being found? Maybe they're part of the fraud. That's literally the reason why. If you find fraud and then you're complaining about why the dollars cannot be stolen any longer, who are you? What are you doing here? What is your purpose? What is your intention in the government? Are you a parasite? Are you helping, or are you limiting? Are you making a progressive effort, or are you making a limited effort? Like, what is your purpose? Why? Why does everything have to end up with you getting something? You can't celebrate something that happened good for anybody. You gotta stand in an empty street on a milk crate with a sign with 2 other old and decrepit representatives and talk about how you're gonna fight, when clearly all you do is care about yourself and do unspeakable things behind closed doors because you're too sick to understand how terrible what you're doing is. It's just like, grow up. The Democrats need to grow up, and they need to understand what type of level of awareness they've been taking place in and what their actions are doing to the country, to themselves, to the people around them, to everybody. It's like a sickness that needs to like actually be looked at and understood, and then resolved, and then eradicated. Like literally just, calmly, peacefully dissolved. So nobody has to look at this sick stuff again. We don't have to look at these pedophiles and, smile at them when they're debating and not complying and arguing positive change for the government. And while they protest healthy foods being changed and looked at and redistributed to where kids can have good school lunches to eat. Like, come on, like it's actually getting ridiculous. It comes to a point where you actually understand that some people only ever care about themselves for no matter what happens for the rest of their lives. And it sucks that it is that way. Then it sucks that it is that way, and that's just what it is. Okay, so another thing that happened was Mayor Adams, the mayor of New York City. I talked to you guys about this guy, like the first news update I did in October, about how he was busting in all these illegal immigrants and how he was just literally not caring, just pouring all these immigrants into New York City and then putting them up in these fancy hotels and just giving them all of this stuff with like $15,000 EBT cards and all these things, which, it's like, immigrants, of course, they deserve to be taken care of, but like, you got to take care of the people who are in the city first. If you've ever been in New York City, there's a massive homelessness problem and drug problems and, crime problems. And they really needed to take care of that first, is what I say. What had happened with Adams is that he was actually forced to do that. He was forced to, comply with the Democrats' rule of this mass immigration, take all these immigrants in because they have very low standards of what they will do. You know, if you take a very poor, impoverished person who's only known pain and misery their entire life and put them in the United States, they will do anything for food. If you say, hey, go burn this down, we'll give you food, we'll give you EBT cards with $15,000 on it. We'll help you take care of your family. They're going to do it, you know. Same with gang members. If they bring these gang members in and they say, hey, go do this, you know, we'll give you this. That was their purpose, the Democrats' purpose. And they'll never admit that, yet that's literally what the Democrats have been doing this entire time. So they forced Mayor Adams to do this. All right. And when he started speaking out against that, then they brought the case on him saying, okay, well, you want to speak out against us bringing these illegal immigrants in for our own sick agendas, then hey, we are making up this false charge on you, just like we did President Trump, and saying that you embezzled funds, you did this, you did that, and you're going to be found guilty. And that's what they did, you know, this entire time. You know, it's very easy to just wipe off somebody and say, hey, this guy's a Democrat and he's part of the Democrat state of New York. He's probably guilty, you know? And this is another thing. It's just like, you don't really know until you actually look into it or more details come up. And then with the, you know, logical and deductive reasoning and objective viewpoint, which is very important for you to have, for anybody to have, you say, oh, now based off this new information, it looks like this guy is actually innocent, you know? So Mayor Adams is innocent. He was one of those people who showed up earlier in this month at the hearings with Representative Nancy Mace, as she was just boom, 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 rapid firing, just destroying all these people who are mayors and representatives for sanctuary cities. Mayor Adams was one of them. The other one was the mayor of Boston. Another one was like a mayor of Chicago. And another one was some other dude. And all these people were just like deflecting. Mayor Adams was the only person who was actually trying to answer the questions, you know, at least trying. The other people were like, no. And then, you know, so it's just like, it's very hard to see who people are. And it's very hard to have the energy to look into somebody's, you know, feel and feel around if they're just like an indescript individual. You know, you'll never actually know where somebody is unless you've been following their journey and you know what they've been through and you know what side of issues they've been standing on, what they've been doing, and how they've been involving themselves in the lives of the American public and in their own dealings within politics and within social and global events. So another thing that happened was the measles outbreak, which was obvious false flag. When it happened, it's just like, okay, what's the big deal about the measles? Oh, 5 people got the measles. Oh, well, the mass news media, they're trying to make a big deal out of anything. Number 1, for the ratings. Number 2, for their advertisers who have the agendas. And number 3, for the agendas to actually run its course and depopulate humanity. So the course of depopulation is by the vaccines. And when those vaccines actually get into people, it lowers their lifespan and it does a whole bunch of other stuff that they don't tell you it does, which is what they designed it to do. So, you know, they've been trying to weaponize measles. And, you know, when measles, back in the day, it was actually something that didn't need treatment at all. All you have to do is, when a kid gets measles, let him stay home from school, let him lay in bed and read comic books. It wasn't something that was dangerous, and now they're weaponizing it, having people go from 0 to 100 with measles outbreak hysteria, thinking that people need vaccines for it. So one of the things that happened with RFK, he actually, see, the thing with RFK, he's a good guy, and he always comes from a place of honor and integrity and wanting to change things for the better of humanity. That's where he's always come from. Yet he's sometimes like easily fooled. He's very easily fooled sometimes, and he doesn't know things. Like when he was first running for president, he didn't know what was happening with Palestine and with Israel on national television. It was like very painful for me to watch when I was watching that. Yeah, so recently, he got psyoped by the measles uh, directive, which he was like, he posted on X. He was like, "Yeah, we should definitely vaccinate for measles. It's something that has to be done." And it's like, it's time for people to start, paying attention to the sickness. And then everybody was like, I was just like, is this a joke? Does he know that this was a psyop? It's just another routine playbook by the big pharma organizations to literally kill people. So, so um, I was thinking like, where's Nicole Shanahan at? Come get your boy. Come fucking talk some sense into this guy because no one's taking shots for measles of all things. It's not happening. So a couple weeks later, actually like a couple days later, he was like, yeah, so um, what we're going to do is we're not doing vaccines for measles. We're doing awareness, and we're actually going to look closely at what's actually needed for vaccination. So he came back and he corrected his mistake, which is something that you don't see a lot of people do. So I really commend RFK for that. That was huge. That was a good thing to see. So one more thing that happened that was like at first jarring and confusing to me because it's like evidence of depth, evidence of corruption that has gone to a deeper depth than I personally had previously thought imaginable is with Antifa and Antifa moving to do anti-Palestine movements in a defiant act to create chaos and mass confusion. All right, it's gone to a whole nother level. At first, it started last July when Antifa raided Washington, D.C. Capitol and just started defacing everything, vandalizing everything, spray painting over stuff, and knocking stuff over and destroying things. That was awful. And that's when President Trump was like, all right, if you guys keep doing that, we're going to deport you. Because it was obvious that they were hired protesters. And a lot of them were immigrants that were hired. And it's just like, if you do that, you can't do that. We're going to arrest you. And if you're here on a visa, you're getting deported because we don't want to deal with you at all. If you're going to deface our own national monuments, it is what it is. That's what happened. So a lot of the protests that have been happening, some of them have been genuine. Some of them have been genuine because, for instance, there was one recently that took place. There were Jewish people who went to Trump Tower and they were like, we don't want our identity being the face of this war because Trump is like buddy with Israel, and Israel is a genocidal leadership. They've been completely ethnically cleansing Palestine, and us as Jews, we don't stand for that. So do something about it. Stop helping Israel. The signs that they're holding were stop arming Israel, which is genuine to me. I feel like that's the actual thing. Like Trump shouldn't be arming Israel. He stopped the war, but still he shouldn't be sending billions of dollars to Israel. Now I pray and I hope there's no way Israel will have any chance to use those arms and funds against Palestine ever again. All right, he stopped the war. Biden started the war. Trump stopped it. It never would have happened if Trump was in office, which is a fact. All right, he's not a terrorist. He's not a Satanist. He's not a pedophile. So that protest was genuine. I feel those Jewish people were genuinely just upset of how Israel is making Jewish people look bad. All right. Yet there's been a lot of anti-Palestine protests that have been funded by Antifa to cause chaos and to cause confusion and to cause the persecution of citizens, and just, and to cause just overall animosity and violence just in the vicinity and in the collective, for no reason, but other than just feeding parasites. So you could tell the difference between genuine protests and paid Antifa protests as if people are wearing masks. If people are wearing masks and everybody has a camera, then it's a artificially generated event created and paid for by the sponsor Antifa. All right, so that's the biggest takeaway for that. Yet it's actually gone further. It's actually gone into government. So Antifa has figured out a way to infiltrate into the government now, so it seems. So Patterson, New Jersey, actually has a capital of Palestine now that they're calling themselves as. So Patterson is now calling themselves in New Jersey. They're actually now calling themselves the capital of Palestine. And they say that they have now 4 council members who are Muslim, who are on the council. And they're actually representing the 35th legislative district. And this is a big development here, because it seems like, they are rebelling or protesting involvement in Israel. Yet how are they actually doing it? How are they doing it? Are they doing it because they're Muslim, or are they doing it because they just want more chaos and more disruption and more just erroneous, non-thinking reaction to anything taking place and any progression made by the Trump administration? Are they doing it because they actually don't want to see Israel armed? Or are they doing it because this is an opportunity for them to protest the Trump administration? Because if Trump does something, that means it must be bad, because Orange Man bad. Anything that guy does is bad, because he's a billionaire, because he's racist, and he hates you and wants you to die. It's like, are they doing it because they actually want things to be better, and they actually think Palestine should have a capital in the United States? Or are they doing it because it's a political move, an optic move? And everybody who sees, oh, Palestine has a capital in the United States now, isn't that great? Sure, yeah, it's great, but why are they doing it? It seems to me, personally, I think it's half and half. I personally think they're partially being funded by Antifa, the billionaire George Soros, and then they're also doing it because they're Muslim, and they actually don't want to see Israel armed and continuing to have bombs and things. So that's my take on it. It's a little bit like strange that this is happening. It's weird that this is happening. Yet that's what they're doing. It's whatever. It doesn't seem to be positive to me. At the end of it, yeah, whatever. That's what they're doing. So one more thing here. Recently, it's come to my attention that the World Economic Forum had literally put a warning into play, like literally 1 or 2 years before COVID happened, and that what they said was that we should really plan on a virus escaping from a lab in Asia. And we should actually take precedent and take caution into setting up a response plan for a COVID virus to spread in the world. That's what they said. That's literally what they said in like 2018, 2019. Literally 1 and 2 years before they actually released the actual virus out of Wuhan, and just kept distributing it across the globe to actually have it take over and so they can run their Agenda 21. So they were saying that, and then that happened. So they've recently said something else, and they said, oh, we should really plan for the power grid to go down and things to actually be in a place to where we can respond on a level to where we can get our powers back online, and we can get electrical and internet in places where we need it to be at. So that might be another thing that's happening, is these fake controllers, the people who think they have power over people, they're trying to take down the electrical grid. That may be their next move. So what I personally did is I recently went and got a power supply, which is like a grid. It's like a power unit that has a solar panel on it. And I got one of those off Amazon for like $300. And then I got a month's worth of food, just to keep, survival supplies, better safe than sorry. just in case some of these things do happen and we do have to deal with these ridiculous things, So that's what I recommend that you do. You go out, you spend extra money just to be safe. So one last thing that just happened, when I went to go wrap this video up, I actually went downstairs and some news just broke, literally right now. What President Trump just did is he's actually nulling and voiding all pardons that Biden had put forth for Biden's entire family, most importantly for Fauci and all the other ones who were implicated and involved in the COVID crimes against humanity and January 6th and all that. So that's huge. That's a huge thing that's just broken right now. Because it's like, after COVID happened, when we were watching these things unfold, it's like, who's going to pay for this stuff? Who's going to get repercussions for killing all these people, for committing all these crimes against world citizens? We don't deserve this. We don't deserve to be lied to and manipulated and treated like we're cattle or some type of science experiment just for people to think that they are above us so they can initiate any type of playbook agenda for their favor. That's not what a world society is for. That's not what people are supposed to do in a world. It's just not. And to see people like Fauci go free, it is what it is. It's like, if he doesn't get tried in court tribunals and with mass arrests that are inevitably going to happen, they're going to happen somewhere for some people. I thought Fauci would be one of them. Yet when those pardons dropped, when Biden initiated those, I thought, Fauci's not going to get arrested. It turns out he may get arrested because he's one of those big criminals who knowingly and intentionally and consciously lied about everything, bold-faced in front of everybody, and just made sure that everything went through with Bill Gates' plan to do this population control bullshit through everybody. So the grounds of these pardons being voided is because Biden wasn't even signing any of his executive orders. None of them. He's just like an empty he's just like an empty doll. He was like an empty body just there. He wasn't even president. The guy was a fake president. And I say that because that actually was. He was not in charge of anything. Anybody who wanted to control this guy got to control him and got to be able to put their intention and put their will and their agenda through this guy. So when these documents were being signed, he wasn't even signing them. He was using an auto pen type of program to where his signature wasn't on it. It was just this generic electric signature. So that's what Trump is saying. That's what they're saying now. They're saying these last pardons that this guy tried to do for pardoning all these people who are obviously guilty, or else why would they need a pardon? They're not valid. So this is huge. This is another thing that I thought that Trump wouldn't go after as well, because I heard Trump say before, he said he wanted to stay away from families. He wanted to stay away from presidential families. He said there's a certain respect there, because if you go after somebody's family, that becomes very personal, really personal, and like a war gets started. And blood is thicker than water. If you know, you know. And when you deal with threatening or messing with somebody's family, things get personal, and then people go worse. Things get more intense, and it's not good for anybody. So this is also surprising to me, because I didn't think that he would drop the pardons even if he had the initiative to do so, or the thought to do so. I didn't think he would, but he is. So we'll see what happens. And if Fauci gets arrested, he gets arrested. But that's another thing for another day to find out and see what takes place. So peace and love. If you guys would like a session, I do sessions at quantumlight.org. I do intuitive coaching, numerology readings, custom art. I have a t-shirt line, empathleague.com. I do organite devices and animal totems on there. Check those out.